Daf Yomi, Tractate Bava, page 60. Be at top of the page with the words Le'olam Yikanes Adam Bechi Tov Yetze Bechi Tov. Shne'emar V'atem lo teitzu ish mipetach beito ad boker. A person should always enter an unfamiliar city at a time of good, and that means while it is light, as the Torah uses the expression "it is good" with regard to the creation of light. See Genesis 1:4. This goodness is manifest in the sense of security one feels when it is light. And likewise, when one leaves a city, he should leave at a time of good, meaning after sunrise the next morning, as it is stated in the verse, "And none of you shall go out of the opening of his house until the morning." Exodus 12:22. Tanu Rabbanan, the sages taught, if there is a plague in the city, gather your feet, that is, limit the time you spend out of your house, and as it is stated in the verse, and none of you shall go out of the opening of his house until the morning. And it says in another verse, "Come, my people, enter into your chambers, and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself for a little moment until the anger has passed by." Isaiah 26:20. And it says, "Outside the sword will bereave, and in the chambers terror." Deuteronomy 32:25. The Gemara asks, what is the reason for citing the additional verses introduced with the term "and it says"? The first verse seems sufficient to teach the principle that one should not emerge from one's house when there is a plague. The Gemara answers, and if you would say that this matter, the first verse that states that none of you shall go out until the morning, applies only at night, but in the day one might think that the principle does not apply. For this reason, the Gemara teaches, "Come and hear, come, my people, enter into your chambers, and shut your doors behind you." And if you would say that this matter applies only to where there is no fear inside, which explains why it is preferable to remain indoors, but where is fear inside, where there is fear inside, one might think that when he goes out and sits among people in general company, it is better. Therefore, the Gemara introduces the third verse and says, "Come and hear. Outside the sword will bereave, and in the chambers terror." This means that although there is terror in the chambers, outside the sword will bereave. So it is safer to remain indoors. At a time when there was a plague, Rava would close the windows of his house, as it is written, "For death has come up into our windows." Jeremiah 9:20. The sages taught, if there is famine in the city, spread your feet. That is, leave the city, as it is stated in the verse, "And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down into Egypt to sojourn there." Genesis 12:10. And it says, if we say we will enter into the city, then the famine is in the city, and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Come now, and let us fall unto the host of the Arameans. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die. 2 Kings 7:4. What is the reason for citing the second verse introduced with the term "and it says"? And if you would say that this matter, the principle of leaving the city, applies only where there is no uncertainty concerning a life-threatening situation, but where there is uncertainty concerning a life-threatening situation, this principle does not apply. Come and hear, come, let us fall into the host of the Arameans. If they save us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall die. We shall but die. The sages taught, if there is a plague in the city, a person should not walk in the middle of the road, due to the fact that the angel of death walks in the middle of the road, as since in heaven they have given him permission to kill within the city. He goes openly in the middle of the road. By contrast, if there is peace and quiet in the city, do not walk on the sides of the road, as since the angel of death does not have permission to kill within the city, he hides himself and walks on the side of the road. The sages taught, if there is a plague in the city, a person should not enter the synagogue alone, as the angel of death leaves his utensils there. And for this reason it is a dangerous place. In this matter, the danger in the synagogue applies only when there are no children learning in the synagogue, and there are not 10 men praying in it. But if there are children learning, or 10 men praying there, it is not a dangerous place. The sages taught, if the dogs in a certain place are crying for no reason, it is a sign that they feel the angel of death has come to the city. If the dogs are playing, it is a sign that they feel that Elijah the prophet has come to the city. These matters apply only if there is no female dog among them. If there is a female dog nearby, their crying or playing is likely due to her presence. Okay. Rav Ami and Rav Asi sat before Rav Yitzchak Nafcha. One sage said to Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, let the master say words of halacha. And the other sage said to Rav Yitzchak Nafcha, let the master say words of Agada. Rav Yitzchak Nafcha began to say words of Agada, but one sage did not let him. So he began to say words of halacha, but the other sage did not let him. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha said to them, I will relate a parable. To what can this be compared? It can be compared to a man who has 2 wives, one young and one old. The young wife pulls out his white hairs so that her husband will appear younger. The old wife pulls out his black hairs so that he will appear older. And it turns out that he is bald from here and from there. That is, completely bald due to the actions of both his wives. Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha continued and said to them, if so, I will say to you a matter that is appropriate to both of you, which contains both halacha and agada. In the verse that states, if a fire breaks out and catches in thorns, Exodus 22:5, the term breaks out indicates that it breaks out by itself. Yet, in the continuation of the verse states, the one who kindled the fire shall pay compensation, which indicates that he must pay only if the fire spread due to his negligence. The verse can be explained allegorically. The Holy One, blessed be He, said that although the fire broke out in the temple due to the sins of the Jewish people, it is incumbent upon me to pay restitution for the fire that I kindled. I, God, kindled a fire in Zion. As it is stated, the Lord has accomplished His fury, He has poured out His fierce anger, and He has kindled a fire in Zion, which has devoured its foundations. Lamentations 4:11. V'yatzeit eish b'tzion v'tochal yesodoteha. And I will build it with fire in the future, as it's stated, for I, says the Lord, will be for her a wall of fire round about, and I will be the glory in her midst. Zechariah 2:9. V'ani eheyeh lah chomat esh saviv, u'lechavod eheyeh betocha. There is a halacha that can be learned from the verse in Exodus, as the verse begins with the damage caused through one's property. If a fire breaks out and concludes with damage caused by one's body, the one who kindled the fire. This indicates that when damage is caused by fire, it is considered as though the person who kindled the fire caused the damage directly with his body. That serves to say to you that the liability for his fire damage is due to its similarity to his arrows, just as one who shoots an arrow and causes damage is liable because the damage was caused directly through his action, so too, one who kindles a fire that causes damage is liable because it is considered as though the damage were caused directly by his actions. The Gemara continues. So we're holding here. Okay. The Gemara continues with another statement of Agada and related topic. The verse states, "And David longed and said, Oh, that one would give me water to drink of the well of Bethlehem, which is by the gate." And the 3 mighty men broke through the host of the Philistines and drew water out of the well of Bethlehem that was by the gate, and took it and brought it to David, but he would not drink, but poured it out to the Lord. 2 Samuel 23:15-16. The sages understood that David was not simply asking for water, but he was using the term as a metaphor referring to Torah, and he was raising a halachic dilemma. What is the dilemma that David is raising? Rava says, that Nachman says, he was asking about the halacha with regard to a concealed article damaged by fire. He wanted to know whether the halacha is in accordance with the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, who holds that one is liable to pay for such a damage, or whether the halacha is in accordance with the rabbis, who hold that one is exempt from liability for damage by fire to concealed articles. And the sages in Bethlehem answered him what they answered him. Okay. Doesn't say what they answered him though. Okay. Rav Huna stated a different explanation of the verse. There were stacks of barley belonging to Jews in which the Philistines were hiding, and David wanted to burn down the stacks to kill the Philistines and save his own life. He raised the dilemma, what is the halacha? Is it permitted to save oneself by destroying the property of another? They sent the following answer to him, it is prohibited to save oneself by destroying the property of another. But you are a king, and a king may breach the fence of an individual in order to form a path for himself, and none may protest his action. That is, the normal halachot of damage do not apply to you since you are a king. The rabbis, and some say it was Rabbah Bar Mari, gave an alternative explanation of the dilemma and said, the stacks of barley belonged to Jews, and there were stacks of lentils belonging to the Philistines. David needed barley to feed his animals, and David raised the following dilemma. What is the halacha? I know that I may take the lentils belonging to a Gentile to feed my animals, but is it permitted to take a stack of barley belonging to a Jew to place before one's animal, for it to continue with the intent to pay the owner of the barley with the stacks of lentils belonging to the Philistines? The sages of Bethlehem sent the following reply to him. If the wicked restore the pledge, give back that which he had taken by robbery, walk in the statutes of life, committing no iniquity, he shall surely live, and he shall not die. He shall surely live, he shall not die. Ezekiel 33:15. This verse teaches that even though the robber repays the value of the stolen item, he is nevertheless considered to be wicked, and is described as such in the verse, and a commoner would not be allowed to act as you asked, but you are king, and a king may breach the fence of an individual in order to form a path for himself, and none may protest his action. The Gemara discusses different explanations. Okay, I think we'll stop here due to time. We'll do a part B on this one to be continued.